trial. It can be really difficult, but it can also be the most fun and the best years of your parenting.
Dr. Jessica Peck is a pediatric nurse practitioner as well as a professor, author, and mother of 4. Dr. Peck is host of the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, weekdays at 2 p.m. Central, and find her podcast at afr.net. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The U.S. shooting down drones over the Strait of Hormuz, testing a fragile Middle East ceasefire. Madeline Rivera has the latest.
It's the second time in the last few days that the U.S. carried out what it calls defensive strikes. U.S. officials say U.S. Central Command forces shot down 4 Iranian one-way attack drones that pose a threat around the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. forces also struck an Iranian ground control station in Bandar Abbas that was about to launch a 5th drone. These actions were measured, purely defensive, and intended to maintain the ceasefire. This morning, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it retaliated by targeting a U.S. airbase from where the strike came. They're promising more aggressive attacks if the U.S. conducts more strikes.
President Trump has broader visions for any Iran deal as he pushes other countries to join the Abraham Accord.
I would like to have the countries we were talking about with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and the others, we would like to have them immediately join and Steve Witkoff is working on that with Jared and some others, but would like to have them join the Abraham Accords. It'll be historic if they do it. And I think they owe that to us, to be honest. I think, because that really would be a tremendous sign.
During yesterday's cabinet meeting, War Secretary Pete Hegseth talked about President Trump's actions to protect Christians in Nigeria.
To give you a sense of how committed this president is, maybe a year ago, he heard the call of Nigerian Christians who were being targeted and killed by ISIS in Nigeria. And he said, Pete, I want the War Department to focus on ensuring that we do everything we can to protect those Christians. Partnerships like that can take time behind the scenes, but he never wavered on it. And we got the assets there, and over the last month, and there hasn't been much coverage of this, we killed ISIS #2 in Nigeria, who is most responsible for killing Christians and trying to target the U.S. homeland.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton won the Senate primary to advance to the general election in November. He'll face a far-left Democrat, James Tallarico, who is now trying to walk back some of his past comments.
You said God is non-binary. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think I was being intentionally provocative with that statement. But what it means is that God can't be defined by human categories.
Do you regret describing it that way or talking about God that way?
There are some statements that I've made that I certainly regret.
Do you still believe there are 6 biological sexes?
I know there are 2 sexes, men and women.
A recent Lifeway study had some concerning findings about Christians. Robert Thornton has more.
According to Lifeway research, there are 8 characteristics that are consistently present in the lives of believers who are progressing in their spiritual maturity. This includes characteristics like Bible engagement, authentically seeking God, and sharing Christ with other people. Scott McConnell is executive director of Lifeway Research. He said there's been some improvement in the 8 characteristics, but a negative turn in others.
The statement, many people who know me are not aware that I'm a Christian. And we see that 3 out of 10 churchgoers actually agree with that negative statement, that the people who know them, their friends, their acquaintances, simply don't know that they're a follower of Jesus Christ. And that's a concerning thing to us, and it would be a concerning thing to church leaders who are trying to disciple these individuals.
McConnell talked about another troubling issue.
Another similar question with a similar response is the statement, I don't think everyone I'm acquainted with needs to know I'm a follower of Christ. And we see a third of churchgoers also agreeing with that statement. And so we see a very similar pattern. There's a large number of followers of Christ that maybe aren't intentionally hiding, but they're definitely keeping their mouth shut.
He also said that in 4 out of 10 surveyed that Christian spiritual matters do not even come up in conversations with other Christians. I'm Robert Thornton.
Oil prices gained more than $2 a barrel, and U.S. futures inched lower today. Yesterday, U.S. stocks inched to more records after oil prices declined more than 4%. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
I'm Dr. Ray Rooney. The mission of American Family Association is to inform, equip, and activate individuals and families to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and give aid to the church, here and abroad, in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. AFA aims to evangelize the lost and disciple the believer.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Welcome to Today's Issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome to this edition of As the World Churns. It's Today's Issues, Thursday, May 28th. We've just about run out of May. I'm joined in studio by Fred Jackson. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning to you.
Tony Vitagliano. Good morning. Good morning. And Chris Woodward is in the house. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Only 55 minutes of me today, America.
That's right. Steve Paisley-Jordahl will be back on the set.
People launched a petition, you know.
Yeah, online petition. And I know he's feeling better. We're grateful for that. For those of you who prayed for Steve, thank you for those prayers. And we are almost out of May. Kind of hard to believe. Fred, it's 2026. We're almost through the 5th month.
Yeah.
We got Father's Day coming up. Then it's July 4th, the 250th celebration. And then downhill towards Christmas.
Yes. That's a good approach to Christmas.
As the world turns.
It's all downhill to Christmas.
It's all downhill to Christmas. So, anyway.
And the older you get, it seems the months just scream by.
Yeah, and I'm digging my heels in. I'm trying to kind of slow that roll a little bit.
I never understood that whenever I was younger, but I understand it now.
Yeah.
I mean, the years are slipping by.
Yeah.
They really do. But, it just goes to we ought to take life one day at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Enjoy. This is the day the Lord has made.
Yeah.
He doesn't say month.
Right.
This is the day the Lord has made.
That's right. Give it
Let's
today.
rejoice and be glad in it.
Listen, the older I get, the more I think about my own mortality. Not that I didn't realize I was mortal, when I was 20 or 30 or whatever. But I just think, God, just thank you. I thank you for life. I married a wonderful woman, have great kids, great grandkids. I love what I do. I've been able to be in the ministry. I've been to a couple of places around. Been to Israel, and Jordan, and been able to write some things I'm proud of. And if I want to go get a pizza, I can get a pizza.
Yeah.
I've seen. I've thought of things I've been able to see. I've seen my team win the Stanley Cup. I saw Doug Flutie throw the miracle throw in 1984 against Miami in the Orange Bowl. Life has been good. I got no complaints, and
absolutely,
we should all be grateful. Lots of struggles. So for people who are listening right now, and you're going, well, I'm happy for you, Ed, but my life is tough. No, we've had a lot of struggles.
Yeah.
Made mistakes, those things, it hadn't been perfect, but God has proven himself faithful.
That's right.
And one day we're going to all be with him, all the troubles left behind. Anyway, so, I don't want to get into, preach mode and start, going down that road. But
it is telling as an Italian, though, that one of the life's greatest achievements that the Lord has given him is that he got to eat pizza. Also. I got to travel the world, walk the footsteps of Jesus. I got to eat pizza whenever I wanted to. So,
that's
Lord, I have no complaints.
Oddly enough,
no complaints.
One of the first American things I saw when I went to Israel last August was a Domino's pizza.
When you went where?
When I went to Israel last
They have
week.
Domino's pizza
Yeah,
in
they had
Israel?
Domino's pizza, and oddly enough, it was right next to a bus stop that had one of those Sydney Sweeney has good jeans ads. It was like I hadn't left America.
That's the evidence of America's impact on the world.
Yeah, there was a Papa John's there as well.
Fast food and cultural rot.
And for people that have never been, there is also a McDonald's at the Dead Sea.
Really?
Our tour guide joked that if you ever eat at the McDonald's there, you have reached the lowest point, which is a pun because the Dead Sea is the lowest point.
Very good. Very good.
I like it. All right. Well, enough reminiscing. Enough in thinking about all the things that are good about life.
Amen.
Let's talk about the news.
Yes. Well, by the way, we should interview Tony for the news job that we have an opening for, because Tony broke this news to us just before this show began. According to Axios this morning, the U.S. and Iran have reached a deal, but they need Trump's final approval, and this is all on officials, some of which are speaking on anonymity. When you look at some of the bullet points here, according to this deal that Axios has, Fox and other news outlets don't have this yet, but according to Axios, things like the U.S. naval blockade will be lifted. That will happen in proportion to the restoration of commercial shipping. Meanwhile, Iran will make a commitment not to pursue a nuclear weapon. I'm not making that up. I'm reading from the
I'm
article.
so relieved they did that.
Yeah,
we promise.
Yeah.
The liars have promised.
And here's where it may get an issue with some Trump supporters. The U.S. will commit to discuss sanctions relief and the release of frozen Iranian funds as part of the negotiations. Again, this is all according to Axios. I will share it on our Facebook page.
And it hasn't been approved by Trump, so Trump could come back and say, take this out, or no deal at all. So,
My question would be on that caveat: if he hasn't approved it, who has come up with this?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a Jared Kushner thing?
It's got to be the negotiators.
Is it a Marco Rubio thing?
I don't know who all's involved. That's a good question, Fred. Who would be involved in these negotiations and coming up with the framework for this plan? Or
Yes.
whatever. So,
And I mean, that last part is the most important part. I mean, Trump can come out 3 minutes from now and say, this is no deal.
yeah.
Because if he's assessing this, and he probably has seen it, obviously, he's thinking, okay, I've got people, Lindsey Graham, I've got a few others that are going to come out there and they're going to be interviewed on Fox saying this is a sellout. He went ballistic, President Trump did on the weekend, when Mike Pompeo started talking about the possibilities of these bullet points. Mike Pompeo just went ballistic and said, basically, Barack Obama .2.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. If I were Trump, I would definitely strip out. If he plans to proceed with this plan, this agreement, I would definitely strip out some of those bullet points.
Oh, yeah.
One of them being the sanction relief and the funds, returning of the funds. That would be very Democrats would be very quick to jump on that and point to the symbolism. Remember the pallets of cash that were delivered to Iran
under Obama.
Under Obama,
Mm-hmm.
that's something to me. That would be a political miscalculation to leave that in there and agree to that with Iran, in my opinion.
Well, here's what I think about this. Now, you've got the Lindsey Graham wing of the Republican Party, Mike Pompeo and others. They're realists. They know Iran's a bunch of liars.
Mm-hmm.
They'll promise you whatever they want. But I don't trust them. I think as soon as they think it's feasible, they will go back to getting a nuke.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the Trump administration has got to find a way out of this mess.
Right.
Yep.
And they are going to have to make concessions that are painful. That's what you do when you want to get out of something. You have to make some concessions to find an off-ramp where you can try to claim some sense of victory. I don't think that's going to be I don't think many people are going to buy that. If Trump says, hey, listen, this is great, we got the deal we wanted, whatever, I think the president ought to just come out and say, listen, we took our best shot. We never were going to put boots on the ground. We thought we could topple this regime because this regime is behind so much bad that's going on in the Middle East. They fund the proxies, which, by the way, they will continue to do with their oil their economy at full tilt, going through the Strait of Hormuz, frozen assets. They'll be able to continue to fund terrorist organizations throughout the Middle East. But Trump could say, listen, we took our best shot. We degraded their military. It's going to take 5 or 10 years for them to get back up. All we can do is watch and see if they will keep their promise about the nuclear weapons. But we did what we could. And we're not willing to throw American soldiers' lives into a meat grinder. The rest of the Middle East is going to have to pony up if they want to. I don't know what else the president can do.
But here's what Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel is going to say. Okay, the United States is doing what it deems necessary, but we must continue the fight.
Yeah.
And if you look at what has happened with Israel sending troops now further into southern Lebanon, bombing almost on a daily basis.
They hit Hezbollah already, a leader
this morning, and they're hitting buildings where Hezbollah is hiding their missile launchers. That's going to continue.
Yeah.
And what does the United States say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Israel needs to, and what it looks like they're doing in southern Lebanon is increasing their buffer zone in anticipation of the U.S. leaving the Middle East, so that they are in a better position when Iran eventually brings. Because look, we're all realists here. Iran's going to bring their proxies back online as soon as they get their footing back underneath them. They're going to start funding these proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis. Even Hamas, if to a certain degree. So Israel's just at this point probably trying to gain as much ground as they can in anticipation for Iran getting its footing back underneath them. Unfortunately,
well, it would have been great had there been regime change in Iran and a more moderate government taken over, the IRGC dismantled. All that would have been great. I would have loved to have seen that happen, not only for the Iranian people to be free, but maybe for Christianity to flourish more in that part of the world. But that was a tall order. Our military performed admirably. They showed that they are still the best in the world, but there's only so much the military can do.
Yeah.
You know, if you had been able to take over Iran, you would have had to dismantle the IRGC. You would have to hunt them down. There might have been a civil war in that country. That would have been an extraordinary accomplishment, though, for President Trump. I think that's probably what he was thinking. He's probably thinking if we can take them out and replace them with someone more moderate, we could have some peace in the Middle East. Listen, that would have been a once-in-a-century accomplishment for the president. All right? I like what he was thinking. It's just not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. It may not even take 5 to 10 years for Iran to rebuild their military. I think China and Russia will help try to fill some of those gaps. But I will say this. Iran, even though I fully expect, should this memorandum of understanding, if this deal should pass, Iran is going to gloat. They are going to brag that they took on the two titans, Israel and the United States. I was talking to Tony earlier. Israel, top military in the Middle East. The U.S., top military in the world. Iran took on both. They took a beating, but they came out intact. But they also have some reason to make a deal because their economy is getting ready to go in the toilet if we continue that blockade. So we'll still wait and see what's going to happen here. But the president has to find a way out. And I think that means he's going to have to make some very unpleasant choices, and he's going to have to take some heat. He'll fire back. I mean, I'm just rambling here. He'll fire back and say, "Listen, you're mocking what I did. It's at least I was willing to take on Iran, which is more than any other administration, Republican or Democrat, can say for the last 30 years." So,
well, we said that if something was going to happen, it needed to happen soon, in order to put some space between the war and November, the election, and gas prices have to come down.
Right.
If gas prices come down, the American people will move on.
Yeah.
The economy will improve. The American people will move on. Democrats will try to still make hay during the election campaign. But if the gas prices come down, the American people will be happy.
And I think he could I think a lot of his base who have been displeased with the Iran situation would move on if he turns an about face and starts to focus on turning his attention on domestic issues, getting our economy back to where it needs to be, getting gas prices where they need to be. The fact of the matter is, it's the attention span and the memory of the American voter is short.
Yes.
I mean, my goodness, think about how the news cycle goes. 3 months from now, if we're done in Iran, 3 months from now, some people may have forgot. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot about Iran.
Well, we're not talking about the Ukraine war.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking about Venezuela.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking about Greenland or Cuba.
Right.
We moved on from those.
If Trump he's also good at creating other headlines and other news cycles. So there's that too.
We're moving into Alberta.
Yeah.
Anyway. I think you're exactly right. I think the American voter will move on because we're not staying in Iran. That's gonna change. The other things are happening. If we get time, we'll talk about the fact that NASA has a 3-phase plan to put bases on the moon. There's so much going on. This will disappear, and if gas prices come down, the president ought to come out, follow this up if he gets a deal done here in Iran and starts bringing our Navy back home or to its standing positions. He ought to say, "Listen, I got a 5-point plan to bring grocery prices down," and then people will sit up and go, "Who's Iran?"
Right. Right. Well, gas prices do certainly need to come down. I'm looking at AAA's daily fuel gauge report, and today's national average for a gallon of regular is $4.42, which is up 30 cents from this time last month, which was already up from the previous month. As a matter of fact, a year ago, the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline was $3.16. Diesel a year ago was $3.53. Today, it's $2 more.
Yeah, that's unsustainable economically and politically.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got? All right, now, Chris, you do your job. Tony did his job.
Yes. Well, talking about something people forgot about, in addition to having military assets in the Middle East, we have also had some U.S. service members helping the Nigerian government do something to prevent Muslim terrorists, ISIS, Boko Haram, from harming Christians in Nigeria. They're also killing Muslims that don't want to bend the knee to their ways. And Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, gave an update on this yesterday, praising Trump's actions for doing something to protect Christians and other people of faith in Nigeria. Clip 4.
To give you a sense of how committed this president is, maybe a year ago, he heard the call of Nigerian Christians who were being targeted and killed by ISIS in Nigeria. And he said, "Pete, I want the War Department to focus on ensuring that we do everything we can to protect those Christians." Partnerships like that can take time behind the scenes, but he never wavered on it. And we got the assets there, and over the last month, and there hasn't been much coverage of this, we killed ISIS #2 in Nigeria, who's most responsible for killing Christians and trying to target the U.S. homeland, and have since, because of the intel we gathered, killed hundreds of ISIS members who were targeting and killing Christians in Nigeria, creating a whole new opportunity there. So there's a lot of things we do that the media pays attention to, and a lot of things that the president empowers the department to do on behalf of the American people that he deserves great credit for.
Well, Fred, he does. This is a great thing the president has done, and this does go back to last year. Christians in Nigeria have suffered terribly from the religion of peace down there. So the president has heard that cry. He should be applauded for this. It's God's going to have to get rid of Islam one way or the other for all this to stop permanently. But listen, in the meantime, this is the next best thing.
Yeah, President Trump sometimes rightfully comes under criticism for some of his moves, but every Christian ought to be praising him. Right. Exactly. What other president can you think of in recent history would do this? they would come out and decry what's happening to Christians in a country, but say, it's not our fight, But President Trump, I'll put it this way, put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
He says we have to do something to help the Christians, and he has invested military hardware and military personnel in this. It started off as a story that we were going to send and give the Nigerians some expertise, some training, that sort of thing. But what Pete Hegseth had to say yesterday about this, that we have killed hundreds, I think our involvement there has gone beyond training. We are there, and I tell you what, if you're going to spend money and you're going to put military personnel to a good cause, amen to that.
Yeah. Well, Tony, these are bad guys. These are really bad guys. Yeah. Boko Haram. These are the folks who now is Boko Haram. That's a branch of ISIS, right?
It is. They have. I think they actually predate ISIS because we were doing stories on Boko Haram before ISIS became ISIS.
Yeah.
But I think they have since unified with them.
So this is the outfit that was kidnapping Christian girls from schools.
Yes.
I mean, this terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are real bad guys.
Yeah, they have committed horrific acts of mass murder. I mean, the things we can't even talk about here on the show, and they've been doing it for a very long time. And so, yes, I am 100% in favor of using some limited military intervention to bring these people to justice and to help and aid people who are just being innocently targeted, Christians especially. I mean, we to me, there is there oftentimes things like this get kind of left out and ignored by even previous administrations, Republican administrations, Democrat and Republican administrations alike.
Right.
They get ignored because, let's just face it, some countries like Nigeria, there's no direct benefit to us for helping.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be willing to help, especially, like I said, with these types of acts that they are carrying out. This is not settling. This is not intervening in some ethnic tensions in some Eastern European country, where people throw rocks at each other. I mean, this Boko Haram are wicked, evil people who have been just terrorizing Christians for decades now. So I'm all for it, and good for the president for actually stepping up and doing something about it.
And these guys kill, like Chris said, they kill Muslims too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
If you're not the right stripe or you don't fall in line, so they're butchers, and hundreds of them have gone to face their eternal judgment.
Yeah, this is I applaud this because this is doing the right thing and getting nothing in return, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it's rightly so, we can criticize sometimes our foreign policy because we're doing things because it's a, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. But this is doing the right thing and expecting nothing in return, really.
All right. What do you got? What else you got, Chris?
Well,
we got a break coming up. Let's go ahead and start the break just a few seconds early here, rather than jump into a new story. And we'll do that as soon as we come back.
I have plenty.
Short break. Yeah, we got plenty of stuff. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon this week. I'm joined by Fred Jackson, Tony Vitagliano, Chris Woodward. Steve Jordahl is feeling better. He will be here at the top of the hour. More stories for us to cover. Folks, thank you for joining us thus far. Hope you'll return with us to follow the news here and abroad after the break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
Lord, I'm thankful. Today, as I was beginning my day, a friend called and said they would be happy to accept our invitation to visit our home. They're good friends, fellow workers, and their friendship means much to us. Strangely enough, I feel they need our friendship as much as we need theirs. A few years ago, they lost their only child in an automobile accident, and it's been pretty tough on them since then. For their friendship, Lord, I'm thankful. Lord, I'm thankful. In the mail this morning came a note from a reader in Australia, the Down Under continent. He had some very kind words to say about one of the books I've written. You know, Lord, it's folks like that who keep me trying against all the odds. To know that something you do lifts another makes one feel pretty good. Lord, for the people I can help, I'm thankful. Lord, I'm thankful. This morning I picked up our youngest son and looked into his eyes. He's just slightly over 3 months old now, but he means so much to his mother and me. He's so precious, as all new life is. His smile makes the day so much more enjoyable. And at noon, Tim got his swimming lesson. I kept the girls while Linda carried him to the pool. It's such a great task and responsibility, this thing of being a parent. You've entrusted to us the care and training of 4 wonderful children. They bring so much love and happiness to our lives. Lord, for a loving family, I'm thankful. Lord, I'm thankful. On the way downtown, I passed by an office building where the American flag was displayed. It's symbolic of one of the greatest privileges known to mankind, this flag, for it stands for freedom, justice, service, and a host of other attributes belonging to the higher nature of man. I know that in this country, with hard work and dedicated desire, I can reach the limit of my potential. Sure, there are obstacles, but that's par for the course and makes the striving so much more exciting. Lord, for the high privilege of living in this country, I'm thankful. Lord, I'm thankful. Today, a friend and I did a little work around the church building. My friend is such a great man in his own way, but if I ever told him, he would blush and be embarrassed. He's like many of the other folks in the church. They take their jobs as being followers of the way seriously. And it's friends like them that keep me going when I get down in the dumps. Lord, for friends who can share with me the faith of the men of Galilee, I'm thankful. Lord, I'm thankful. As we stopped at the light today, the family in front of us were having such a good time. They just bought some ice cream cones, and the mother had a double dip. One side was hers, and the other side she gave to her infant. As I sat and watched the small child enjoy that treat, I laughed out loud with joy. Lord, for the simple things in life, such as a mother's love, I'm thankful. I could go on and on, Lord. You know that. So just let me close by saying that for this day and tomorrow and the days after and all the wonderful possibilities they hold, Lord, I'm thankful.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Romans 12:10.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And welcome back to today's issues. Chris, before the break, we did say that what President Trump has done in Nigeria, no other administration has done. You did want to make a little bit of a correction on that, right?
Yes. So U.S. military actions actually started just before President Trump returned to office. And I say that because I'm looking at the website for U.S. Africa Command, a government website. And on December 25th of all days, during the end of the Biden administration, the U.S. Africa Command, in coordination with the Nigerian government, conducted an airstrike in Nigeria. It was fired from U.S. naval assets. Over a dozen Tomahawk cruise missiles struck 2 Islamic State camps in the northwestern state, killing multiple terrorists there. So at the end of the Biden administration, whether it was President Joe Biden or somebody that worked for him and ran the country during the last weeks of his administration, some of this stuff did begin. Now, Trump did more and did more things. So Hegseth is correct, but some of this stuff did begin technically before Trump re-entered office.
Well, and we want to be fair about that, and we want to report the truth. So whoever did it in the Biden administration at the tail end, we're glad it happened.
We don't know who it was.
Such a funny thing, like turn the light off on your way out. Also press this button and launch this airstrike.
Yes.
You know, don't forget to make sure the oven isn't on.
The microwave is
blow up
plugged
this
in.
chief in Boko Haram. Yeah.
What a perfect segue into our next topic, which does include audio. Dr. Jill Biden, the wife of President Joe Biden, is in the news. She is now on record as saying she had concerns that Joe might have had a stroke during that one and only debate he had with Donald Trump back in the 2024
when
race.
he was staring off.
Yes. Remember the moment where he just kind of stumbles and stammers, and he's like, "We finally beat Medicare." And then Trump is asked to respond, and he goes, "I don't even think he knows what he said." That moment here is what Dr. Jill Biden is talking about. Now, I have combined this with the most recent comment where she's expressing concern about the health of her husband during that debate. But then we're going to hear what she had to say a few hours after that debate when she trucks Joe out there on stage by hand and tells him in front of everybody that he won. I've combined all this. Clip 14.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes, or
You've
since.
never seen him like
never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie! Yes.
What is that, a group of fourth graders?
Yeah.
Who was she talking to?
The
sports.
17 people paid to show up at the rally to tell Joe what he did right.
By the way, we apologize for that. She took the Lord's name in vain. We failed to catch that, so apologize for that. Okay, all right, Fred, you first. Do you believe what she's saying? Not before or since?
I believe Jill Biden's out peddling a book right now. And so
Is she?
she's doing a bunch of interviews.
Oh, I got to make sure. No, let me know. I want to make sure I pick up a copy.
Yes, that's right.
So she's asked in these interviews, obviously, that was a moment, the Joe Biden debate, and what he had to say. So she's telling these people in these interviews that she was scared that her husband had a stroke. All right? So she's telling people, I was really concerned that he had a stroke. But then an hour later, she takes husband Joe, and they go to the rally, and you heard her. You did such a great job out there. And I saw the video this morning. You heard the audio. I saw the video. And still then, President Joe Biden is standing and staring off into the abyss. His wife is praising him. She's got all the energy. Joe is just standing there staring off into the distance. And as other people have said, you know, she had to see his mental decline prior to the debate
and
afterwards. Yes. She had to. She's his wife. And as many people have said, you love this man, you just take him by the hand and say, Joe, number one, don't run again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's time, Joe. You've done great things for this country. You've served your country. Just let it go.
Right.
But she didn't. And I think she has been rightly condemned for not doing that as a loving wife.
Right.
Say, it's time to retire with honor. You can go with your head held high. She didn't do that. So now she's out with her book, and she's telling the world, I was really worried that I had a stroke because I never saw any problems before, never saw any problems since.
Oh, that, I don't want to call someone a liar. It's just very hard for me to believe that Joe Biden, in his declining mental state, which people who have the same conditions that he probably does, in the first thing in the morning and at night, they exhibit the same symptoms. You're telling me his wife never saw any of this other behavior day in and day out? It's very hard for me to believe. I think that's just you're stretching if you expect your audience to believe that you never saw any. This is the first time you'd ever seen him discombobulated before and frozen and I don't know.
I appreciate you not wanting to call her a liar, and I'm not going to do it, okay? Because that's unfair, and I can't say for sure she did. But I'm going to say this: at the very best we can say about what she just said is it's spin,
right.
Okay? I may not call her a liar, but it's spin, and here's how I can prove it. Just let's just be logical for a minute. She is now, since she's selling a book, putting the best possible spin on her reaction to that debate debacle because she wants to sell books and she doesn't want to appear to be a monster. Okay? Right. All right? But if you want us to believe you thought in that moment that he might have had a stroke, why didn't you take him to the hospital?
Yeah.
Right.
Why did you parade him in front of to Chris's point, the 17 paid people who were there to cheer? If you really thought he had a stroke, he'd be at the hospital,
right,
being checked out, not being paraded. And that kind of medicine that you use for a stroke, time is of the essence. It's got to be within hours that you get that to him. You're not going to say, well, we're going to take a couple hours and then maybe make it to a hospital. So I don't believe a word she's saying. Again, I don't want to be ugly here, but let's just say she's spinning.
Well,
for the sake of book sales.
And I had my mute on I was muting myself. Forgive me. One thing about the media is somewhat to blame here. And in recent days, we've seen things that show the hypocrisy of the mainstream media. For days now, we have seen stories from many news outlets that don't like President Trump. And they point out the fact that, he falls asleep in meetings. I saw something the other day on X where somebody had posted different pictures of him in meetings with his eyes closed. Now, it could be that he's being bombarded with all kinds of opinions and he's trying to take it in and Lord bears me strength. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard to get inside Donald Trump's head. But the fact that they're doing those kinds of hit pieces when they didn't raise any kind of concerns or they blew off people that came on CNN or whatever to raise issues or concerns about Biden's mental state, it shows you there were a whole bunch of people that were purposely ignoring concerns that the President of the United States might not have all been there.
Well, and let's not forget, too, there were reports that Jill Biden was absolutely furious when the coup took place within the Democratic Party and Joe Biden was ousted and Kamala Harris was lifted. There were reports that behind closed doors, Jill Biden was absolutely furious. There was even, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't there even reports that, rumors that Jill Biden might have voted for Trump in the election? Did anybody?
I heard those.
Yeah, I mean, rumors, okay.
That she voted for Trump?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, because of Kamala?
Because of Kamala.
She didn't like Kamala.
So even still, with her saying this, if those rumors or reports are true that she was furious about Joe Biden being ousted and Kamala being put in, she still, even after her husband supposedly, she was so concerned about he had a stroke, she still probably wanted him to go forward and be the candidate and run again and win, I guess try and win one more time and then.
Well, you know what, Fred, I want to just kind of jump off something that Chris mentioned, and Tony too, about the media and their culpability in this. Now, you've spoken a lot over the years about the collapse of professional journalism, okay? So the mainstream media was protecting Joe Biden. Chris was talking about the fact that they go after Trump for the littlest, smallest things, but they protected Joe Biden when he was clearly in mental decline. But by protecting him, all right, rather than flush this out and do their jobs, they did nothing, which made the Biden campaign continue so long that they couldn't have an actual primary campaign for a new candidate. They were forced to ultimately oust him out after the debate and put in Kamala Harris. So in not doing their job, the mainstream media, by protecting Joe Biden, they may actually have contributed to Trump being elected.
Yeah, it's interesting. You follow the sequence. They were cheerleaders for Joe Biden right up to that debate night.
Yeah.
But they couldn't deny what every American saw.
Yeah. Right.
You know, they saw a man who left reality for that moment. He didn't know, it seemed he didn't know where he was, what to say, etc. So they couldn't deny that. So then they went into, we must replace our man. I'm talking about mainstream media said we must replace this man.
Yes. Right.
And we must do it quickly.
They did it right after that debate.
Oh, yeah. Right away, we had stories of Hollywood supporters, you know, all of a sudden saying Joe must go.
Yeah.
We started to hear the stories of Barack Obama calling, saying, Joe, you got to get out. And those media stories, normally, if they were still supporting him, they would put skepticism in.
Yeah. Right.
This is just a Republican plot
Right.
to get rid of Joe. No, they were feeding this all of a sudden. They fed this because they knew they had to get somebody else on the ticket.
Yeah.
And that had to be Kamala Harris. When Kamala Harris, you know, finally, you know, she was named, they were Kamala Harris cheerleaders.
Yeah.
She could do no wrong.
And, you know, it's not even new to say that the media is protecting a president, because nearly 100 years ago, when Franklin Roosevelt ran for the first time during his administration, of which he served many years, more than other presidents, you had a lot of people, many Americans were unaware that the president spent time in a wheelchair. That's the University of Arizona. I mean, like, so the media doing things to protect the president is not even a new thing.
And well, I would be honest, Fox News goes out of their way to put the best possible spin on what President Trump does.
They do, because that's their audience. You know, they're doing a story for the people they're depending on watching them. And which is why they label everything a news alert every 5 minutes.
And that's why, folks, I do want to remind you that we do try to be fair here. And sometimes that means we are critical of the Trump administration and the president. I know that doesn't always make you guys happy, but we have an obligation, we feel, before God to speak the truth as we see it. So that's why, like, you know, when I do ask you to be gracious towards us when we say things you don't like, just remember we're trying not to be like the mainstream media and just tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah,
so
you try it at afn.net, American Family News. That team, Fred and that team are what they're trying to do is bring you accurate information, the news that you care about from a biblical perspective.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do.
That's
here.
our job.
That's our
Well,
job.
and we do quote Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in this election campaign, we will quote Democrats.
I did a Zoran Mamdani story last week.
Yeah,
but I had the other guy.
Some people get upset sometimes saying, why are you covering the Democrats? Well, it's really important that you know what the Democrats are saying.
Right.
The difference with us is that we will have reaction to what the Democrats are saying versus just letting them go out there and spew what they spew.
Right.
So, and nothing says criticism better than the word spew. So spew some news stories,
All
Chris.
right. Next Tuesday is a big day in the state of California. It's the June 2nd primary in the state of California. And one place where people are voting is Los Angeles. They're going to be deciding, amongst many other positions, their next mayor. Spencer Pratt is becoming a household name, not just in L.A., but in other parts of the country, because the former reality TV star turned political science major at USC is running for mayor, and he's blaming Karen Bass for much of the city's problems. Mayor Bass is the current mayor. She's seeking another term, and Spencer Pratt is looking to unseat her in that race. There are other candidates as well, but Spencer Pratt has been making headlines. He's been making, he's kind of a viral sensation because people that support him have been doing AI videos to help him in his campaign here. And Spencer Pratt says, look, if I'm elected, I'm not going to be just a mayor for Republicans in Los Angeles, but all kinds of people in Los Angeles. And he went on to share more of his reasons for running. Clip 15.
Why I'm resonating across the country or even outside of the country is because all I focus on is the truth. I'm the look around candidate. I do basics. I don't do national politics. I don't do parties. I just say, look, they're stealing all of our tax money to give it to drug addicts, to have needles and tourniquets, and they're actually even selling the drugs to these addicts to let these people die on our sidewalks. I want to be the compassionate one, get these people mandatory treatment, medical treatment with doctors to help them get off of fentanyl and super meth, and that is what people actually want in LA. As much as everybody wanted to believe the people that have been in charge, my opponents combined are at almost 10 years of their experience, they are failures. And so people want an outsider that's not a politician, that's just saying the facts, the truth. These people have failed us. They've spent all of our tax money to increase problems. And I keep it basic. And again, I never wanted to be the mayor. I just wanted somebody to tell the truth.
Fred, this is a fascinating campaign. Yeah. Now, listen, most campaigns on whatever level you want to look at are exactly the same. Okay? This is... There's something Trumpian about this guy. I don't know a whole lot about him except for the fact that he was in a reality TV show, maybe several. He's kind of got that a little bit of celebrity shine to him. I've seen him in a couple of interviews, and I saw him in one interview. I don't know if I mentioned this on air, but I mentioned it in our story meeting, that he was asked who his favorite politician is, or the person he looks to for guidance about, what he's doing and running, and he said Jesus Christ. I don't know whether that was, a political, kind of a political move, or whether he's actually a Christian. Some of his ads are, for most Christians, are going to be a little questionable. But this is just a fascinating race. I don't know if he has an actual shot to unseat the Democrat, but he has drawn a lot of attention, and he claims he's getting money from Democrats, and I have no idea what's going to happen in Los Angeles, but I'm going to pay attention to the race.
Yeah, a couple of things that I think are going on there. He is attracting national attention. He's a sharp young man. Is he in his 30s?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Check that out, Chris. See how old he is.
He's really sharp. I mean,
he may be older than that.
Oh, wow.
He did a full interview with Fox this morning.
42.
He's 42?
So he's
a very
my age.
young-looking 42.
I look like I could be his dad, but
he's high energy anyway.
Yes, he is. Reality TV. He is. Some of his commercials have been outside his home, the Pacific Palisades fires,
right
back there when Karen Bass said, in the midst of all of that, I need to go to another country in the world.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening, and he made mention of this in the full interview with Fox this morning, is that his supporters are Democrats. So what has happened in Los Angeles is what has happened. Remember the stories coming out of San Francisco a few years ago where they passed a law where you could steal up to $1,000?
Yeah.
And what happened? People went ballistic, and Walgreens, remember, they moved out of the city. There is a point that Democrats/liberals, when those policies from their party, Democrat policies, really start impacting them in a very negative fashion, even a liberal Democrat doesn't like walking down sidewalks in Los Angeles and having to move around drug addicts or being accosted by drug addicts.
Or human waste.
So Karen Bass has had her opportunity to fix it. The other opponent there is a lady who's in charge of housing.
Yeah, Nithya Raymond.
She wants to be the next mayor as well. Well, Spencer Pratt is just pointing out, you've done nothing about that.
Right.
So what's happening is he is riding on a wave of reality. The reality is Los Angeles is in a mess.
Yeah.
And Democrat mayors have not done anything. In fact, they've made things worse. And so he is there. A poll that I saw this morning still has him trailing by a few points behind Karen Bass. But he's getting money for his campaign. So it's really going to be interesting Tuesday to see what happens there.
The turnout will be the key.
Yeah. It is possible that it could come down to a runoff type situation, general election situation, if Bass or somebody doesn't, if they don't reach a certain threshold.
Is it 50%?
I think so, yeah. And the fact that Nithya Raymond is running, she's a council member, and she's refused to quit. So she could
draw away from Bass.
Right. And so you could have a situation where it's Bass v. Pratt after Tuesday.
Well, and Pratt, in some of the interviews I've seen, Pratt actually mentioned when he's asked about the homeless, he said, now, this is his claim, he said the vast majority of homeless in this country aren't even Angelinos.
Right.
He said they've been bussed in and scams, for these company groups to get federal dollars to, quote unquote, take care of them. So he does have answers to some of these charges. Tony, I'm just going to say that sometimes the best thing that Republicans have going for them are crazy Democrats. And to Fred's point, crazy Democrat policies. Because as inept as Republicans oftentimes are, and as careless as they are with their own supposed conservative values and beliefs, the Democrats are crazy people. And the fact that Los Angeles is in this kind of state because they think that homeless people have a right to camp out in front of shop owners and businesses on the sidewalk, that kind of policy is the best thing Republicans have going for them sometimes.
Yeah, and I think Pratt's taking the right approach in keeping his campaign focused and narrow, right? He's not talking about geopolitical issues. He's not talking about, addressing whatever grievances that these groups have. He's not talking about, reparations. He's not going on about, he's keeping the focus on Los Angeles, which is what I'm assuming most of the people who live in Los Angeles care about the most, and he's keeping it focused on fixing some of these these issues that have plagued the city for so long, and that will and there's an argument to be made that if you get those fixed, to get the homeless problem under control, clean up the streets, clean up crime to a degree, that the ripple effect of those will be positive for the city also. So, maybe businesses start to come back. Maybe people, will choose to stay rather than leaving, and keep their tax dollars there in the city. So keeping it focused is the right approach by him, and who knows, it may end up paying off.
Well, even though Los Angeles is a really big city, not only Los Angeles proper, but the surrounding communities, that's still a local election for a lot of voters.
Right.
So to your point, the governor's race, maybe that's where you raise geopolitical issues. Maybe that's where you talk about national issues. But if you're voting in a local election, you want somebody running for mayor who's going to fix potholes.
Yeah.
And maybe lower taxes, or maybe not tax us so much and then give it away and all these scams and all this fraud that's going on. That's something that Spencer Pratt has talked about a lot, is the just out and out fraud. I just think this is a relatively young guy, at least from Fred and our perspective, okay, relatively young guy who not only he and his campaign, but others who support him have been using AI. It's hilarious effects in some of these ads. And that may attract a lot of young voters, too.
Richard Riordan was the last Republican to be mayor of L.A. He served from 93 to 2001. It's been a very long
Reardon,
time.
I forgot about that. That's a long time. That's 26 years ago.
That's a pretty good run, though, for a Republican mayor of Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, you don't forget, they had a Republican governor, on a number of occasions. They've really gone radical over the last 25 years. So, all right, folks, 5-minute break for news. We'll come right back. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
They will thrust a cell phone in your face. If you ask a question, they'll surround you with cameras. They'll scream at you. They'll try to get you to commit violence. I believe God is giving us a little bit of a glimpse into what life without Him would be like.
A Disciple's View with Todd Herman. Critical information from a faith-enriching perspective. Weekdays at noon Central on AFR. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. A federal judge declines to block President Trump's executive order creating a federal voters list and limiting mail-in voting. Chris Foster has more.
U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols in D.C. says the challenge brought by Democrats is premature, since no federal agency has actually done anything to carry out the order signed by President Trump in March. It would create a list of U.S. citizens eligible to vote in each state to be shared with state election officials, and it directs the U.S. Postal Service to deliver ballots only to voters on each state's approved mail-in ballot list. Judge Nichols says plaintiffs can come back if and when those lists or new Postal Service rules are created. Arguments in a similar lawsuit brought by a coalition of Democrat-led states are being held in Boston Tuesday.
Israeli officials have reportedly taken out the head of Hamas's military during airstrikes at Gaza. Israeli government spokesperson David Mencer claims the Israeli military is not planning on backing down until everyone involved in the October 7th attacks is held accountable.
After October the 7th, every single terrorist involved on that day and after that day that held our people as hostage, they will be hunted, they will be located, and they will be eliminated.
Tensions rising in the Middle East as the U.S. says they shot down a series of Iranian drones. Jeff Paul reporting from Dubai.
U.S. officials confirmed its forces shot down 5 attack drones near the Strait of Hormuz and also hit a ground control station as a 6th drone was about to launch from Bandar Abbas. The strikes are being described as purely defensive and intended to maintain the ceasefire. The IRGC says it's retaliated by attacking a U.S. airbase. Officials in Kuwait confirmed they faced a missile and drone attack today. U.S. CENTCOM adding that it, along with regional partners, remain vigilant and measured as they continue to defend its forces and interests from unjustified Iranian aggression.
A conservative pro-Israel activist thinks the U.S. has done enough damage to the peace deal without regime change. Chad Groening has more.
During a Wednesday cabinet meeting at the White House, President Trump asserted that when it comes to talks aimed at ending the war, the Iranian side is, quote, negotiating on fumes. While Trump insists a deal is within reach, there appears to be daylight between the U.S. and Iran on several key issues. Gary Bowers, chairman of the Campaign for Working Families, who served on the board of Christians United for Israel. He disagrees with the regime change argument.
It is not easy to remove the government of a country. We tried that several times in the Middle East, recent decades, and it always ended badly. So I would love if the Iranian government got overthrown by its people, but I disagree completely with some voices in the Republican Party that says unless we overthrow that government, that somehow the president has failed. I don't think that's true.
Bowers says he has total confidence that President Trump will accomplish the most that can possibly be accomplished without engaging in a much larger conflict.
I'm hoping that the president has done enough damage to the Iranian military, plus the economic pressure that Iran is facing, that we'll get some sort of an agreement in the weeks ahead that will open up the Straits of Hormuz, will end their nuclear program. It will be good for the United States. It will be good for energy prices, and it will not hurt what the election results end up being this coming November.
Bowers says we must follow the words of former President Ronald Reagan, who said, trust but verify. I'm Chad Groening.
The Trump administration highlighted its efforts to combat fraud in government spending during the cabinet meeting yesterday. Connor Hansen reports.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says there have been hundreds of warrants, arrests, and convictions in the past couple of months. The Fraud Task Force says it has found tens of billions in healthcare fraud alone, and cabinet secretaries are overseeing investigations into unemployment, student loan programs, housing benefits, and food assistance. The Small Business Administration has identified about $200 billion in fraudulent pandemic-era loans. $22 billion has been turned over for collection and prosecution, and Administrator Kelly Loeffler says thousands are getting barred from the program or going to jail.
There's more online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildmon and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome back, everybody. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon this week. I'm joined in studio by Fred Jackson, Tony Vitagliano, and now Steve Jordahl.
Hey, everybody.
Has come back. Welcome back. You just gone for one day.
Sir.
You know? And definitely with the Paisley today.
Got the Paisley on. Got to keep up the image there.
Well, once you become a celebrity, Steve, you have to own it. You have to own it.
I'll be stopping by your office later on to get the lesson to how to do that from you.
Yeah. All right. Well played. All right. Let's get right back to the news. I have no other announcements. We might as well get to what's cooking.
All right. I understand you guys talked about this yesterday, which is the Stop Nick Shirley Act in the California legislature.
Yes.
And it passed. I have the news today is it passed in the California Assembly. California's legislature is divided into the Senate and the Assembly being like the House.
Yeah.
And it passed the California Assembly, and it would make it criminal to and with $10,000 fines, imprisonments, misdemeanors, to expose fraud in the state. So and you guys talked about it yesterday, but I just want to let you know it has passed.
It's got to be some fine print in this. I just find this hard to believe that even Democrats that fear no political blowback in a state like California, they can just about do whatever they want, and that state is going to be run by Democrats. I just find it hard to believe. Fred, I'll just check with you first. How do you pass a law that punishes people who expose fraud? What's the justification for this?
I think on the front end of this, and I early on in reading what was being proposed, it had something to do with the possibility of slander, that sort of thing, that you might get pictures of individuals who are innocent to the alleged crime being committed, that kind of thing. But the reason it's being called the Nick Shirley law is because, they didn't think about this until Nick Shirley came along and started exposing the fraud, particularly there in Minneapolis. So I think that's they're trying to coach this.
Yes.
They're trying to coach this as interference with people's private lives, et cetera, et cetera. But really what they're trying to do is protect certain portions of the electorate that they depend upon.
Yeah.
Which has been going on in Minneapolis. Part of the story.
And California.
Part of this, part of the story in Minneapolis is that the Attorney General of the state, Keith Ellison, had meetings with some of the people who were being investigated for fraud. And the story goes that these people asked Keith Ellison, make these people back off. So these people leave Keith Ellison's office, and the allegation is a check was written to Keith Ellison's reelection campaign. That's the story that's been out there.
Well, Tony, I think Fred is probably exactly right in I mean, their defense of this is, well, we got to protect people. Blah,
Right.
all of what Fred just said. I don't want to repeat it, but all of those dangers, slander, people's pictures being, all that applies to regular media.
Right.
I mean, that is a danger that someone who is going to do investigative journalism always has to be aware of. Mm-hmm. But it's clear this was targeted to one person and his efforts, and the shamelessness with which Democrats who control entire states like Minnesota and California, the shamelessness by which they use tax monies to basically fund members of constituent groups, even though it's fraudulent. It's like payoffs.
Yeah.
And we're gonna funnel money to the Somali community. We know it's fraudulent, but you make sure you turn out Somalis to vote for me and my party. That seems to be what's going on here.
Oh, 100%. This is a classic strategy of Democrats, is to present a law, like Fred said, as something that is a good thing. Can't we all agree we don't need to, dox people's personal information, publicly post images of them, and innocent people could be hurt? We all agree on that, right? I mean, that's it. And a lot of people would say, well, yeah, that is a good thing. Well, that's all this bill does. And also secretly here it imposes $10,000 fines if you do that, right? But what it's actually doing is cutting off a means of people being able to go out, independent journalists, and conduct investigative, hard-hitting journalism that, mind you, the mainstream media should be doing. Let's just say this: that the mainstream media is not going to be hurt by something like this in California.
No,
because first of all, they've stopped doing hard-hitting investigative journalism to begin with, so they're not going to be harmed by it. But it cuts off real investigative journalists from breaking stories. It'll make it harder for them to break stories that might put a bad light, shine a bad light on the people in charge of the state and overseeing this fraud. Maybe not directly, but it's happening under their watch. So yeah, it's ridiculous, but
it's unbelievable. It's shameless. Steve, I know this story is brand new in terms of it passing. Please keep us, informed about whether or not Nick Shirley sues.
Yeah,
because he's named. I would think he would. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe this is a question for Abe Hamilton or Jenna Ellis. But I would think he would immediately have standing to sue to protect his journalistic rights, because he's actually named in the bill. Or is he named in the bill, or is that just what they're calling it?
One of the Republican Assembly members, Carl DeMaio, has named it the Stop Nick Shirley Act. But this is what he said. He did put a post out. He says, exposing California's corrupt Stop Nick Shirley Act, instead of going after the fraudsters, California is now going after the people exposing the fraud. Let me read that again with the emphasis in the right spot so it makes sense. Exposing California's corrupt Stop Nick Shirley Act. Instead of going after the fraudsters, California is now going after the people exposing the fraud, like himself. The bill was created by the Attorney General's wife, Mia Bonta, to stop fraud from being exposed. Please like and share this video everywhere. By trying to silence and intimidate journalists, they're trying to hide the truth from you, expose the fraud. So he is commenting on it. It is not officially named after him, so I don't know if there would be a. But I will keep it up.
So this is the difficult thing. And I think we had said this yesterday. That was just, I think Chris mentioned, that was not the official name of the bill.
One of the bill's opponents has named it that. It's truthfully, it kind of truth in advertising.
So in terms of standing, Nick Shirley may have to actually be charged under it or fined under it, because it's civil. It's not criminal, right? It's civil penalties, $10,000 fine or whatever.
Yeah.
He may have to, and I don't know whether he wants to fight that, in court. But it would be, that'd be a tremendous fight to say, listen, you can't stop citizen journalism.
Yeah.
And you can't, this is a First Amendment issue, and you can't chill it. Listen, if Nick Shirley wants to be even more famous, he ought to take this on.
I know.
It's a case if this did develop into a case that eventually made its way up to the Supreme Court. Clearly, it would be shot down as a violation of the First Amendment. The point is it's an intimidation tactic,
right?
Because not everybody would have the resources of someone like a Nick Shirley who is well known, could crowdfund legal fees to push it through and help
or get
fight.
free
but
representation.
This is to intimidate other up and coming
Nick
Shirleys who don't have the money to pay a $10,000 fine or go to court. So that's what that is.
What's the guy's name? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to go to the next story, but you have
okay. Let me just say, what's the guy who investigated Planned Parenthood, James did a lot.
O'Keefe.
What is it?
O'Keefe.
O'Keefe, yeah. He's been in a lot of battles over this because the system went after him.
Yeah.
It's like fighting the mob.
Yeah.
You try to expose Planned Parenthood, you get the full weight of whatever it is, local, state, sometimes federal government coming after you. So he's had a long slog through it too. So, all right.
Well, I'm going to say it's not the only example of Democrats hiding the ball. There's a new and a dangerous trend coming around, and it's being called by the name of teen takeovers. Have you seen these online where a bunch of teens...
We have an article on afn.net about it. You wrote it.
Written by yours truly.
Yes.
So it's happened in several spots, and I wanted to highlight one of the ways that they're hiding the ball. So basically what this is teens in several areas, usually these announcements come on social media at a site or an app that all the teens are using. Gather here, we're going to have a good time, or whatever they say, but they're told where to gather. And it has resulted in shootings. It has resulted in assaults. Some cops were run over. At this point, fortunately, no one's been killed, but it's not for lack of trying, as they would say. And I want to tell you, though, this is how Democrats because this is happening in large cities, which are mostly always Democrat-run, and this is how they're kind of hiding the ball. Chicago it has been the target of some of these, and this is Mayor Brandon Johnson's way of going after this problem. Cut 17.
We prevent the vast majority of these from ever taking place. There is an effort in City Council to hold these social media apparatuses accountable. I believe that we should continue to explore that, and I'm going to continue to work with Alderman Hall around that. It's why we're actually taxing these big tech companies for the role that they have played in harming the mental health and well-being of our young people.
Oh, my goodness.
So what's happening is the teens are going out and they're wilding and they're breaking the law. So let's go ahead and punish social media for it. You want to let's tackle the teens. Can't blame them. It's not their fault.
Fred, I almost don't know what to say. There's so much wrong with what Mayor Johnson just said. Okay? Listen, rather than talk about the fact that your city is in chaos and that young people who apparently don't have much parental oversight. I mean, when I was growing up, my parents always wanted to know, where are you going? Who are you going with? What are you going to do? Why are you going somewhere? My dad wouldn't even let me go if I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
He'd say, why are you going? We're just going to hang out. No, you're not going to just hang out. My dad, who at the time we weren't Christians, didn't even believe in the devil, but he said, idle hands are the devil's workshop. So listen, I made stuff up, but I was accountable to my parents, especially my dad. So I would say, we're going over to play basketball, okay? Because you just didn't go and hang out. But these are clearly young people who are not accountable to their parents. So rather than talk, and I'm guessing that with a lot of single parents, and listen, I have great respect for single moms who are trying the best they can to make the best of a bad situation. that some of them work 2-3 jobs. I understand all that, okay? I'm not trying to pick on someone who's got a bad thing and trying to make something out of it. But there's a lot of missing dads in these homes. I lived in fear of my dad, okay? I always, in the back of my mind, thought, what happens if I get caught by my dad?
Yeah.
All right, that was always in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, that's not going on. But Mayor Johnson can't say that.
Nope.
He can't talk about the parents who are missing in action. He's got to talk about the way the kids communicated in order to show up to run over cops with their car.
Yeah, juxtapose what the mayor of Chicago is saying to the public about this against Jeanine Pirro, the Trump-appointed district attorney in Washington, D.C. She held a news conference last week after one of these teen episodes and says, enough is enough. We're going to start to hold the parents accountable for what their kids are doing.
Yep.
So I think that's one aspect. Some people criticize that, saying, the parents sometimes don't know, and you got kids that come from broken homes. The other problem with this is that courts systems are allowing these kids to get away with stuff.
Right.
Because they're underage.
Well, yeah. The schools allow them to get away with it.
Yeah.
They don't discipline the students anymore. And then these kids get out and they say, well, we get away with it at school. And, in certain jurisdictions, whether it's Washington, D.C. or Chicago or Los Angeles, whatever the case may be, hey, the cops may arrest us, but we'll go down to the police station.
Slap on the wrist.
We'll do a little bit of paperwork, and then we go home and we can do it again.
Right.
And then you have mayors and you have district attorneys in certain jurisdictions that say, we can't charge these kids.
Right.
There'll be a record of something there. And but like I say, Jeanine Pirro somebody's got to be held accountable. So we're going to start with the parents, but also it would help if we had district attorneys that would take these 15 and 16-year-olds and say, we're not going to let you get away with this.
Right.
Well,
plain and simple.
Tony, you grew up in a tough home too.
Did.
Okay. All right. So no, listen. When I said in the last segment that the best thing a lot of Republicans have going for them is crazy Democrats and their crazy policies, one of the worst things the people of Chicago have going for them, as an example, are crazy Democrats who aren't going to do anything about this. Fred's saying the local district attorneys and city councils ought to pass laws, all these kind of things. They're not going to do squat.
Right.
And they are going to do what the mayor said, where they're going to sue the social media companies. And the poor people who live, the footage in the Chipotle restaurant with another takeover, terrorizing people, they're going to live under this,
right?
Until they decide to elect people who have some common sense.
Well, and honestly, you look at this, and we know, being Christians, that this is a spiritual issue, because at the heart of this, and what no Democratic politician is going to talk about, is that a lot of these kids, I feel comfortable saying this, probably the overwhelming majority of kids who are participating in this are coming from fatherless homes.
Mm-hmm.
And the way God designed marriage and family is that the mother and the father are two counterparts to provide different forms of upbringing. And the mother is there to nurture and to be, kind and tender, and to teach, compassion. Yeah. And the father is there to represent authority. He is the authority figure that you grow up under. What he says in the house goes, and that trains a child until when they're old enough to start being disciplined, that I will always be under some form of authority. And if you're a Christian, obviously, that father should be pointing to the ultimate authority, being God.
Mm-hmm.
But if a kid is not brought up under any type of authority structure, they have first of all, no concept of what that means. of punishment for wrongdoing or consequence, and they have no respect for the authority structures that exist when you leave the house. Because my job as a father with my kids right now, I tell my kids, look, I'm trying to teach you to listen. When I tell you to listen and obey me, it's because if you can't learn to listen to me, a person who's physically here with you day in and day out, you're first of all going to have a hard time listening to God, your heavenly Father. But second of all, when you get out of my house, someone's going to be over you. It's going to be your boss at work. It's going to be the police driving down the street, the government that sits on top of you with their laws and legislations that you have to follow. So if there's none of that, then this is just the result that you get. I mean, you get these kids who just have no concept of what it means to follow authority. They've grown up, matter of fact, being anti-authority. And so when they do this, there's no consequences. And that, to me, is due to growing up in a fatherless home, which is something that Mayor Johnson's never going to go out and say.
Right.
The problem is obviously going to be tech companies, and we need to sue them for, just presenting a product that someone uses, that someone misuses. Which, by the way, none of these, I'll mention this real quick. I'm assuming Mayor Johnson and other Democrats like him are all for punishing parents whose children take their firearms from the home and use them to commit acts of violence. Right? We're all for going after parents who are, you're irresponsible. You left your firearm there and your child got it and they committed a horrible act. So we're going to hold you accountable. Right? The responsibility is with the parents in the home. Well, none of that is to be found when you're talking about these
good point.
Riots and mass gatherings. There's no one saying, well, the responsibility is with the parents at home.
Well, suing the tech companies is like suing Chevrolet because bank robbers used a car to drive up to the bank and then leave.
Right.
I mean, it's absurd on its face, but he's left with nothing else because he can't say what everyone knows to be the reason this is happening.
Right.
All right. I don't want to continue beating on this. I feel bad for the people of Chicago, but like Tim often says, then vote for someone else. Vote for a Republican if you don't want this insanity.
Hey, and be in favor. Hey, if Donald Trump says I'll send in the National Guard and you can have a few months of peace, then don't fight that either.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people in Washington, D.C. Were like, this is pretty nice, being able to walk down the street for a while and not have to worry about being mugged.
All right, Steve.
Well, this kind of same rubric happens in countries. I want to take you to Belgium, where there's a former politician who is he's being described as a right-wing hate speech type person, but basically he is giving speeches against the open borders immigration that Belgium and many other European countries have had, and basically he's pointing out that, and the way he does this is to point out that not all cultures are equal. There are Western civilization, Western culture has some benefits that it brings to the world that some of the cultures from which these other countries come don't have. The value of equality, the status of women might be one. And so when you get Muslim immigration in these countries is specifically what he's talking about. They don't assimilate well into Western culture. So he's lecturing, and he is about what he's calling the Great Replacement. Muslims coming in and replacing the current culture. He has been charged and he's sentenced. And I wanted to read you a little bit about what the sentencing said, because he talked about the different cultures and what they bring, and so from his sentencing verdict, they wrote Van Landinghoven, and that's his name. Has there ever been a more Dutch name?
That is a great name. Van Landinghoven.
Van Landinghoven is not charged with spreading false information. He's charged with presenting facts in a way that incites hatred against persons on the grounds that that are one or more of the protected categories. So what he's saying about the Muslims and what they're doing to our country isn't wrong. Is just making them feel bad, so we're putting you in prison.
I don't think I've ever heard something said like this has been said. He's not being arrested for saying something wrong. He's being arrested for saying something true
and having
that we don't like.
That we don't like, exactly. Having the facts to back it up.
All right.
George Orwell talked about that in 1984, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
In the last 60 seconds, I want to just mention something, folks, that my news team that I told for the last 2 days to cover has not covered. And that is that there is a new AI dog collar that claims to translate the barking of a dog with remarkable accuracy. They're saying 95% accurate. Now, it is a Chinese company, okay? A communist Chinese company. But they claim that their device can translate animal sounds into human language. I watched the video. So if you want to find out more, you can go and look that up.
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel.
Exactly.
But my news team didn't want to cover that. All right, folks. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow for Trivia Friday.